So Jennifer, so Donald Trump, posts something on social media, and the next thing you know, everyone's in a panic, at least in Canada, after that threat of a 25% tariff. So much so that they're actually having an emergency meeting or sitting tonight in the House of Commons. What do you make of this?
Well, yes, and I will be observing that tonight. There's also a virtual First Minister's meeting, but just to clarify, that's not related to the announcement of the tariffs. That was related to the other Trump announcement about expelling people from the United States and how Canada was prepared, or the provinces rather, were prepared or ill-prepared to accept those people. So I'm sure that the tariff situation will also be discussed at the First Minister's meeting tomorrow, and obviously in the emergency debate in the House of Commons.
So this whole idea of gone from a 10% tariff, which is what, of course, Donald Trump had talked about all along, to suddenly last night posting this 25% tariff and sending everyone scurrying, trying to figure out what he's really going to do here. I did want to point this out because I was discussing this earlier on with Jimeni, and Trump aside, yes, because he says things and doesn't necessarily follow them through. He says things to kind of stake his position, and then negotiations happen because he's got people, obviously, not just himself, who'll be working on this trade deal. One of the things he obviously is talking about is immigration. He's concerned about, people crossing the border from Canada, the northern border, as he said, into the U.S. He's also concerned with the drug situation. You could sit and argue that, these things are new, he just made them up. But we know these are actual issues in Canada. So when I was talking about this earlier on today, I said, look, at the end of the day, if this is what it takes to appease Donald Trump, this idea of securing the border and making sure that people don't come into Canada and then cross into the U.S., which we now know has happened a lot, and the drug situation here, which we now know Canada is involved in, the biggest drug bust in Canadian history, took place about a month ago. It was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So he has a point. And it would seem to me, if we agree and go ahead and, do something, it's a win-win. He gets what he wants, and we're actually doing things that are good for us anyway.
Well, you're right. I heard your exchange with Jim, and you're absolutely correct about the fentanyl bust in BC. I mean, that's not coming from Mexico, and I think that the leader of the opposition, Mr. Poilievre, he was objecting to Canada being put in the same bin as Mexico for different reasons. But we are. The fentanyl problem is real. We know this is a problem, and it was a problem before Donald Trump came back. The border situation that you alluded to, it's almost an industry. I mean, the unfortunate people who died, there were people charged with murder, thankfully. But look at the people that drowned in the St. Lawrence trying to cross at Akwesasne last year. This is a huge issue. It's one thing. They got all the leaders in the National Assembly together today on this issue, agreeing that the northern border issue is a problem, except for Quebec Solidaire, but that's, they tend to, they don't talk about economic things in a very wise fashion. But François Legault has even gone so far as to offer the Sûreté de Québec to help out the RCMP at the border to strengthen the Canadian case, I guess we could call it.
Yeah, I heard Pierre Poilievre. We're going to play some of his statement today, just after the 5:30 news. But this idea of, let's put partisan politics aside, is that just all smoke and mirrors?
Well, let's hope not. But I mean, it is. I mean, it's funny that it would take something like this to get the House of Commons up and running again, because as we know, it's been at a standstill for 2 months. And I mean, is Donald Trump good for Canadian unity? Yes, perhaps he is. He's getting everybody to work together, got Team Canada rocking and rolling. So, all jokes aside, let's hope that the House of Commons can be serious and come up with some serious solutions. And I mean, the northern states, they know about the critical and crucial relationship. So it's not a one-way street here. Obviously, it's a huge trading partner, and there's 2 months to get our house together, let's say, and organize the border and to tighten up the border and present a plan. So I mean, if he's starting at 25, he's a business guy, right? He'll go down. If he's starting at 10, you can't go down very much further from 10. Right? But you can go down considerably further from 25.
It's kind of like, it's almost like he really wanted 10, but then, after all, I thought, well, if as you just said, if I start at 25, I can end up at 10. That 10 in a percent of tariff represents still billions of dollars.
Oh, huge billions of dollars. And I liked what the CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce said, that we've got to kind of buck up and, replace the sorry with sorry, not sorry. We're not the nice neighbor anymore, because the stakes have changed. I mean, with Donald Trump, there are winners and losers, and the good news is that this particular government, the Trudeau government, they have experience in negotiating with them. Chrystia Freeland, in particular, has considerable experience in negotiating with them. And there are more people around the table than just Donald Trump tweeting from whoever he's not even tweeting, it's social truthing. I don't know what you call that, but where he's making his posts. But there are a lot cooler heads around the table. And I mean, even, some of his cabinet picks have been a little bit absurd, as you've pointed out, but some of them have been quite smart, and particularly the people at the borders. Excuse me, I just got to get a drink.
Yeah, listen, I would mention, by the way, one thing which is always interesting. You look at stock markets, big issues like this and how they will affect things. And today, by the end of the day, markets had a really good day. Markets were up. So they're obviously not very concerned by this whole 25% tariff issue either, thinking it's just, it's kind of like his opening play, if you will, and it's never going to happen. So that's what markets told us today.
Well, yeah, but the loony's down, unfortunately, down to the lowest point since May 2020.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's been on a slide now for weeks, for even longer than weeks.
It has been. I made a decision not to purchase something in U.S. dollars the other day just based on how horrible it was.
Yeah. So, look, we'll see where this goes. As you said, interesting that this is what it took to get an emergency session and finally get something done in the House of Commons. We'll see what comes from it. I would ask you then, if we shift to local politics, I was talking about this yesterday. I asked our listeners, about how Fadi Daguerre, the city of Montreal, Valérie Plante were handling these pro-Palestinian protests. There are not a lot of people, at least not based on our listeners who were calling yesterday, very happy with how this has been handled in this city. Are you one of them?
No, it's getting worse and worse. I mean, as the chief of police, Mr. Daguerre, pointed out, there have been 400 protests, but the fact that they're worsening, it's like the protesters are getting emboldened. And I wouldn't necessarily call them pro-Palestinian protesters. I mean, what we saw at Concordia, it takes very little to shock me, but I was shocked about the Concordia, thankfully, the Second Cup situation, that person owned franchises or ran franchises in the Jewish General Hospital of all places. The lack of response, and I mean, this is informed by the mayor's office and Projet Montréal's left-wing agenda. The protesters know they can get away with stuff in Montreal, and they're getting away with it. He can blame whatever happened on Friday night on a group of left-wings. They were casseurs back in the Maple Spring that will take advantage of these types of things. But the tone has been set that you can pretty much get away with all kinds of whatever you want in Montreal because nothing's really going to happen to you.
Yeah, that's the problem. For him to say that there were 3 arrests and others may follow, and I said this yesterday as well, we never hear what that others will follow, what happened. Nothing. So there's no sort of backstory to any of this, which to your point would seem to me just to embolden protesters even more. We'll go where we want to go, do whatever we want. If we have to shatter windows and scare people, hey, we're okay. We're not going to get arrested for that. I'm not sure what kind of tone that sets.
Well, but to your last point, scare people. That's the thing. Our neighbors are afraid. People are afraid. I mean, they're frightening people in their houses. They don't have problems going outside of offices. Riding offices are shut down, and people are not even working out of their riding offices because they're subjects of protest. It's gone way, way too far.
All right, we will leave it at that. Jennifer, thank you, and have fun watching the House of Commons meeting tonight.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. Jennifer Crane.